All right, guys, we're going to work on Chapter 7. So this is in the Chapter 7 note packet, which you can find access to on Google Classroom. Go ahead and pause the video and just fill in these blanks as they are. We are talking about ratios. So ratio, the keyword there is that it's a comparison of quantities, and the amount of quantities that we're comparing will vary depending on the problem. There are three ways to represent that. We can do A to B, so we can write the word to. We can do A colon B, which just would be read as A to B, or we could do A over B, which would be read as A to B as well. So the 2 is the comparison of those two quantities in between there. Ratios can be simplified. In fact, they must be simplified. So if we look at these first few examples, we're comparing the amount of instruments that we have. So it says trumpets to violins. So if we would compare that, the number of trumpets we have is 40. So I like fractions because that in my brain is telling me I need to simplify anytime I see a fraction. The number of violins, 24. Those are both divisible by 8. 40 divided by 8 is 5. 24 divided by 8 is 3. So my ratio of trumpets to violins would be 5 trumpets to every 3 violins. For flutes, 51 flutes. Clarinets, there are 39 clarinets. Both divisible by 3. 17 over 13. So for every 17 flutes, there are 13 clarinets. Trombones, there are 16. To trumpets, there are 40. Both divisible by 8. So 2 over 5. Every 2 trombones gets you 5 trumpets. Finally, violins, 24. The total number of instruments, so you need to add up every single instrument that they have in stock. That's 170. We can simplify that, 12 over 85. Extended ratio, don't get too caught up in that vocab, but what that means is that we can compare more than just two things, and this comes into play more with triangle problems and sides and angles. But first we're talking about angles, and it says the ratio of 2 complementary angles. For complementary angles, we need to remember that these are angles that add to 90. So 2 angles that add to 90 degrees. So they tell me my ratio is 3 to 7, and these are adding to 90. So I have an angle that's 3 of something, adding to another angle that's 7 of something to get me my 90. So that would be the equation that we'd want to write for that. So we can solve it. They want the measure of both angles. So one of the angles would be 3 times 9, which is 27. And the other angle would be 7 times 9, which is 63. Again, that's just pulling from your vocab. Complementary angle means it's going to add to 90, so we take our ratio and add that to 90. For supplementary angles, we are adding to, hopefully you've already guessed it, 180. That one is more common that we work with. One of the angles is 4x, plus the other one is just an x to get me my 180. Again, they want us to find the measure of both angles, so if I plug that in, and then the other one is just x, which is 36 degrees. All right, let's look at another one. The ratio of the measures of the angles in a triangle, well, inside of a triangle, is going to add to 180 as well. But this time we have 3 angles because we have 3 angles in a triangle. So setting up, one is a 4, one's a 7, one's a 9. They're all inside a triangle, so they're adding to 180. And they want us to find each angle. And you can always check this and see if these do in fact add to 180. But go ahead and pause the video and work on number 8 on your own. I'll have you type it in when you are done solving it. All right, let's look at number 9. The ratio of the measures of the sides of a triangle. So now we're moving to sides, and sides of a triangle never equal something unless they tell you. And if they tell you, it's going to be the word perimeter and what that perimeter is. So we're going to use the perimeter, and your ratio is the same except for we're setting it equal to 76. So if we solve that out, and then they want the length of each side. And this is inches. So go ahead and pause the video and try number 10 on your own. You will be typing it in at the end. All right, so now we're going to look at proportions. A proportion is an equation, so we're going to have an equal sign that states that two ratios are equal. So we are setting two ratios equal. What that looks like is I have one ratio that's A over B, so A to B, and I set it equal to another ratio that is C over D, so C to D. We're going to use the cross product property, which is like cross multiplying and dividing. So what you would do is you would multiply the things that are diagonal from each other. So notice here that it's A times D, and then it's B times C, because those are diagonal from each other, makes that cross in the middle, and then you would cross multiply, and then we divide. So you've done this a lot of times before in previous math classes. Let's jump down to number 15. So I'm going to multiply what's across from each other. So across 10 times 9, and across 20 times, we have to make sure we put that whole thing, that whole denominator, in parentheses, because we're going to have to distribute to both terms. We can't just give it to one term. So anytime you see a binomial that's something with two terms, we need to make sure we're distributing properly. And then when you divide, you should get, and if the decimal doesn't work out, you can leave it as a fraction in simplest form, but that's what we would get for x. So go ahead and pause the video, try number 16 on your own. You will be asked to type the answer in. All right, let's look at number 18. So on 18, what happens is we have two binomials now. So anytime you see it, you can put parentheses around it if that helps you. We're cross multiplying, so 6 times that 3x plus 3 in parentheses, and 7 times that x plus 16. Make sure you distribute. So if we move our 7x and move our 18, and then we're dividing. This one actually doesn't get you a nice decimal, and it's already reduced in simplest form as it is, because we do not have a common factor between 94 and 11. So it would just be 94 over 11. All right, guys, go ahead and pause the video and do number 17 on your own. You will be asked to type in the answer at the end of the question. And make sure you bring any questions that you have to our class meeting when you have that.